There we go. All right, there he is. We got 7 people in the room. Thank you guys for coming. I appreciate this. There we go. Sean? Oh, you got the white cowboy hat. Last time it was the black cowboy hat. Ah.
Yeah, black cowboy hat, gym shorts. I'm doing real good here.
There you go. One of each. I want to just thank everybody for coming in the room, and this is our pretrial anonymous. Maybe I'll change the name. You guys let me know, but basically this is a support group for people getting ready to go to prison. Some people that have come out of prison still need support too, right, Tom? And we may always need a support group. Forever. So, you know, every week I've been trying to get somebody to, you know, talk about what they went through, you know, the whole prison system, before, after, during, you know, what it's like your first day, what it's like your last day, what it's like today, what it was like when you first got indicted, whatever, all that. And Chris, I did time with Chris here, and the first day I met, the first words I heard from Chris, we were standing in line at the chow hall, and he says, "I'm not here to make any friends with anybody, and when I get out of here, I don't want to know anybody." And here and here we are, friends. But I think he looked at me and said, "I'll make an exception for you." Remember that, Chris?
I certainly do. Is that the Tom from Florence?
Yes, it is.
Hey, Tom, how you doing?
Chris, how you doing?
I don't know.
I'm trying to remember you. What date did you get report?
I got out on 3/20. You were already going. You were going.
Yeah, if you got there on 3/20, I left about June, the first week in June, I think. So we may have barely met each other.
I'm sorry, my phone just, okay, there we go. I'm sorry, guys, it blipped out. Okay, I thought you had, no, you know what? I'm confusing you with that doctor, the chiropractor. Anyway.
Well, sorry I missed you. Sorry I missed you up there.
No, it's quite all right. I'm glad you did, because it's just means that you had time to focus on something else.
I was supposed to be out of there in February.
I don't know what you need to do.
What do you want me to do? February. Oh, losing you, Chris. What'd you say now?
I'm not sure what you want me to do.
Oh, so I was just saying, you know, I have somebody on there every week to talk about, you know, everything you went through before, during, after. I mean, last week we got into what a day-to-day like, you know, what it's like on a day-to-day basis once you get to prison. But I mean, you could start from your sentencing stuff. People that watch this are going to want, you know, they got questions all the way through, you know, how to deal with their judge and their lawyers and their prosecutors and their PSR, and what it's going to be like when they get there, you know, what it's going to be like in the halfway house, what's probation like. So wherever you want to, if you want to start in the middle, that's fine. You want to start in the beginning, just, you know, maybe talk.
Let me plug in.
Okay.
Let me plug in, and I'll start from the very beginning.
All right.
To give everybody first, you have to have people in perspective in order to understand what we're going through.
Yeah.
And I'll go straight to current day. Can y'all hear me? Somebody say something.
Yes.
There we go. Okay. So fellas, I'm going to tell you this right now because it's going to mean something later. Okay. And that is pay attention to my backdrop, what's behind me. I'll expand on that in a little bit, but I want you to understand that nothing is as it appears to be. So I want you to pay attention to things besides my face. Look around me, get a good idea, because nothing is as it appears to be. So my situation is that I was charged with wire fraud. They tried to charge me with 3 major felonies: conspiracy to launder money, and money laundering. That would have gotten me, well, probably 30 years. What a lot of people don't know about me, Sean, I don't know if I've ever actually told you this. Do you know what my previous professions were?
I know one of them, Treasury, right?
Secret Service.
Secret Service. Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Okay, so guys, I have a law enforcement background, and I spent 22 years playing with that, and then I went to work for a bank. I ended up buying the controlling interest of the bank, and I ended up owning it. We were located in New Zealand. The name of the bank was Maxim Gold Bank Limited. Feel free to Google it. It's not a problem for me. And as a result of that, the U.S. government caught wind because we had a guy that who wanted to take over his father's account, which was sizable. And it was multiple millions. We refused to allow that to happen legally because he claimed that his father had dementia and was not in control. Well, being that we were on the straight and narrow, we said we have to provide us with certain documentation to prove that. Otherwise, we can't release control of his account to him. So he said he was going to talk to the Securities Exchange Commission and talk to him about how we were frauds. Told him go right ahead. Nothing changed. So got a call from the Southwest Regional Director of the Securities Exchange Commission about 6 months later, asking if I would come to Los Angeles from Auckland, New Zealand, which is where we were located, and answer some questions and bring with me 15 years of all of our accounting, all of our accounts, all of our clients' accounts, all of my phone conversations, all my emails, all of our contracts, yada, yada, yada. I said, yeah, I'll be happy to do that. The hell I am. So I appeared in his office, and fellas, at that point, I was pretty arrogant, and I basically told him to go pound sand. That was the biggest mistake. I'm not going to cooperate with you in that fashion, but I'll give you my barrister's name and number, and he'll be happy to cooperate on whatever level he sees fit. Have a wonderful day. I picked up my hat from the corner of his desk, took my feet off his desk, and left. Well, 3 years later, international arrest warrants were issued for me for wire fraud because the grand juries of the state of California, in secret, which you don't know anything about, are being conducted, and you have no say in those grand jury hearings. They turned down the conspiracy to commit wire fraud or to commit money laundering, criminal conspiracies, and they allowed the wire fraud to stick because almost anybody can be charged with that. So I was in New Zealand, and the world started to fall apart. We started losing clients. We started dropping money. We were bleeding like there was no tomorrow. We were doing approximately $3 billion a year in investment capital. And we were in the current project of building dialysis centers in New Zealand. Project was going well. Feds didn't like it because we wouldn't provide them any info. But really what they were after is they were after a tax dollar. All of our contracts were closed in New Zealand, so it was difficult for them to do that. So because of my own arrogance, I basically got indicted. Okay. Things got terribly wrong in New Zealand. New Zealand government refused to cooperate with the American government, but the American government, being as sneaky as they are, and I want y'all to remember I said as sneaky as they are, had a few conversations with all the private industry that we were involved with, such as other banks, because the one major rule is that an investment bank in New Zealand has to hold its accounts with another investment bank, so that there's a checks and balance system. Well, that was all fine and dandy. They called them, they froze our accounts. We had no money. I had to use all of my own personal money to pay all dividends for our clients, and we did that for 3 years. Ran out of money. Feds go back to the client list and say, hey, how's Maxim Gold Bank treating you? They said, oh, fine and dandy, but they're not paying us. They're crediting our accounts, which was legal, but not in the United States. That gave them their wire fraud. So we had to shut down. I took my family and we moved to Tonga. My wife at the time was a Tongan citizen. So they served an extradition warrant, and after 2 more years of fighting with the extradition warrant, which I didn't have to fight very hard because the Tongans take care of their own, and I am a Tongan citizen, they got me back in the United States. I landed in Los Angeles, and that was in 2016. And landed in Los Angeles, everything was fine. You know, The marshals transported me, bought me McDonald's and a bunch of other shit through the airports, and everything was wonderful. Then came the actual booking. They booked me into a facility called MDC LA. That is the Metropolitan Detention Center in downtown LA. Hellhole, not suitable for wild boars to live in. Showers are rusted out, they're all metal. Everybody is guilty, nobody is innocent, but everybody says they're innocent. Half the places run around with 5150s in there. So that went on for 9 months. Very honestly, I finally said enough of this shit. I'm going bat crazy. Let's try and get a deal on the table. So my attorney got a deal on the table for 36 months. I said, that's perfect. That means I'll do 18 tops if I lose, but I don't want to lose, but I want to accept the deal because I want to get out of MDC before I actually lose my sanity. I'm highly educated, believe it or not. I come from a very good background, and this was a little bit more than what I wanted to take. So I took the deal. We go to court, and I'm never going to forget this one marshal, and this should have told me this is the way it was going to be. Marshal looked at me as I was being brought into the courtroom, and he said, he puts his hand over his pocket, and he says, I'm just making sure you don't steal my wallet. Dude, I'm being arraigned. What kind of prejudicial statement is that? That should have told me what was going to happen from there on out. So I was arraigned. My attorney convinced me to plead guilty because if I didn't, I'd probably get 2 times the value of the sentence. Would have been, that time they were talking about 22 years. So I like, no, we're not playing that. I'm too old for that. I'm 70 right now. So went through the court process, went to sentencing, and at sentencing, they bonused me with 3 points upward movement because of my crime was out of the country, outside of U.S. jurisdiction. All of a sudden, the sentence jumped from 36 months to 72. Here's what's important. Those of you on pretrial, those of you who are not sentenced yet, don't argue it. Get to your attorney, take the best possible deal you can take. You argue your sentence. You argue that, you run 2 risks. One, that the court will taint you, even though there's no written document. The judge is going to remember, even though you're proven to be innocent until guilty, and you're going to get a fair shake according to the law, right? And the other thing is you open yourself up for extended sentencing. Now, on the appeal side of your sentence, if you decide you got screwed and you appeal it, that's all fine and dandy, but with your attorney, he'll tell you again, you're going to open yourself up for resentencing on the appeal, and that could double the sentence or dismiss the sentence if you're found innocent. 98% conviction rate, you're not going to be found innocent. So for those of you on pretrial, honest to God, I hate to say it to you, but in your own best interest, just say, yeah, I did it. And just take and swallow that pill so that you can get in and get out and then get on with your life. If you are under 35 years of age, you can rebuild your life without too much issue. You can outrun the internet. They search your name, it'll come up on page 17 somewhere. Nobody ever looks past stage 3. And you'll have the opportunity to have a normal life, and you'll be able to rebuild yourself. So I got 72 months. They sent me to Taft. Taft had valley fever. They don't want people there in my age bracket of valley fever because it's a lifelong illness. If you get it, it's respiratory. So they transferred me to Florence. Now, for those of you who have been sentenced, and I don't know who's going to a camp and who's not, Sean, I forgot the points. Was it under 10 points, under 15 points? I can't remember.
11 points or less for a camp, 16 or less for a low.
Yeah, those of you who got 11 points or less, which means if you haven't killed anybody, used a weapon, or sold more than 250 tons of dope, probably going to a camp first time offense. And believe me, I was in Florence along with this gentleman and the other one, And we had mules in there that were transporting, 1,000 pounds of marijuana and three to 7 keys of heroin or methamphetamine, and they got 36 months. And they were under 24 years of age. So just say, yeah, I did it, and be done with it, because you're going to go anyway. So you want to get the best deal for yourself. In respect that, you get low quality of supervision time, and you have a little less stress on you. Now, I arrived at Florence after being in Taft, which was almost like not being anywhere. In fact, when I arrived at Taft, the warden at Taft had us all in for a meeting. There were 12, 14 of us. And he told us, he said, if you guys want to escape, it's out by Bakersfield, by the way. It's closed now. But he said, if y'all want to escape, go ahead, escape. He says, but please, call me first. Tell me you want to leave. I'll call you a cab. I won't stop you. It's not my job. He said, it's the marshal's job to track you down. He says, I'll call you a cab. I just don't want you running across the desert and getting snake bit. Now, of course, he's obviously not serious, but you get the implication, very low maintenance. So, honest to God, your best effort forward. Forget about innocent until proven guilty. That stopped in 1964, after the assassination of Kennedy. Nobody's innocent anymore, ever. You're guilty and you have to prove yourself innocent. So long and short, I may be cynical, but it's true. So long and short, I got to Florence. And the things that you guys need to be aware of is the lifestyle change. For most of us, probably 85% of us. The lifestyle change is going to be the hardest thing for you to understand. First, this is not the high school locker room where you got a bunch of guys and you're part of a bunch of guys. Your whole world changes. You will place value on little packs of tuna as being dollars and cents and trade medium for whatever you want to purchase. If you have people on the outside that have a little bit of money, set up an account with them so that they could put money into your inmate trust account so that you can buy a few things to make yourself more comfortable, such as deodorant, toothpaste, shoes, sweatpants, sweatshirt, t-shirts. Those sorts of things are going to be small remembrances of what's on the outside, because your mind is not set for what you're going to see and do and how you're going to live. Of Florence, we didn't have it all that bad. However, for someone who's not used to sleeping with 27 guys in a room, and each of them, there's 2 men to a bunk, or 2 men to a cubicle, and the cubicle is basically 6 foot by 8 foot, except for the first 2, there's 3 men there. You're dealing with a guy whose feet or his head is going to be less than 2 feet away from your foot or your head, depending upon how you face each other in the bunks, right? Now, that person may have a gastric problem where he farts all night long, and you're going to be dealing with that. That person may be a slob, and you may be neat. You're going to be dealing with that. That person may not be able to adjust, and he may be whining all the time. You're going to be dealing with that. He may be Mr. Macho and wants to rule the roost, and you may be dealing with that. But the real problem you're going to deal with is your personal amenities that you used to have that are now left behind. You're going to find out that a damned hair comb is going to be worth something to you. It doesn't mean anything out here. Hell, out here, you just stop at CVS and go grab one, or any grocery store. Spend your $3, it's done. There, you may have to balance that $3 between a chance to make a phone call to talk to your loved ones, or to buy something extra to eat because the food is not all that good. It's not going to kill you, but it's heavy starch, limited protein. And all these comforts are going to be gone. So you have to learn to adjust to the surroundings and what's available to you. And that's going to be your most difficult thing. You're not going there to make friends. As I told Sean, I'm not looking for friends. I came here alone. I will leave here alone. The only reason I've stayed in touch with Sean is because Sean's really a good person. I mean, seriously, a good person. He's not really criminally minded. He just got caught up in some stupid shit and it got carried away, as probably 85 to 90% of the people who may or may not be on this call. So you adjust, and you have to adjust. If you don't, you're going to drive yourself nuts. There are different diversions in there. You know, there are those who turn to God and all of a sudden they're religious. Don't judge people. Don't condemn them. Stay the hell away from them if you don't like it. Don't talk to them. Don't deal with them. Live your own life and do your time your way. Try not to be combative. Try not to be judgmental from what you were in the civilian world, because it is completely different. For those of you who don't wear boxer shorts, you're going to be wearing white boxer shorts. For those of you who don't like thin, cheap white t-shirts that sag and fall apart and shit, you're going to be wearing those. That's what you get issued. You're going to be getting everything that the Bob Barker Corporation makes, including your shoes. You will have a job after about 2 months. They'll put you to work someplace in a camp, and you'll have the opportunity to make 17 cents an hour. But you will be doing something that helps pass your time. So televisions are there, phones are there. You have to pay for phones. You have to pay for your internet. When I say internet, that means your emails. One of the biggest things I can tell all of you who are listening now, who are going to be going into custody, whatever you do, relinquish yourself right now to the fact that you can tell no one to do anything. You try to tell your wife to do something, you're an idiot. You try to steer and correct your kids while you're in custody, you're a bigger idiot. You can do nothing. You are in a position to have no say. And I'm telling you right now, 100% of the time, if you try and direct your family and not allow them to run your life, your lifeline, putting money on your account, coming and visiting you, writing you a letter, you try to run their life from jail, and you will lose them as fast as you gained them. And you never gained. So listen, understand, absorb, be consultorial. In other words, try not to make judgment. Try not to issue orders as a father would to a kid, or a husband and a wife having, what do I do with this, honey? I don't know, honey. What do you want to do? What do you think you should do? Because I can't really tell you what to do. I don't see all of it. I'm not there. But if you start telling them what to do, you will lose them. Anyone who is sentenced to more than 5 years in a federal prison, I guarantee you, when you come out, you will either be divorced or extremely strained. And how you act while you're in prison with your family is what's going to keep your loved ones close to you. Wife, children, doesn't matter. If you want to hold on, I don't care if you've been married 25 years. If you want to hold on to all of those things, you have to understand you cannot tell anybody how and what to do while you're in custody. The other part of this, do not trust any of your guards with any sensitive information, because it makes no sense. You may think they're being really nice to you and you can build a relationship and trust them. They will knife you in the back and roll you over in a heartbeat. It's their job. It's what they get paid to do. They get home every single night. You do not. You're there until your sentence is over. And let me tell you something. When you leave, it makes no matter, because there will be somebody else who replaces you. So don't make that mistake of trusting people that you think may be sympathetic to your cause. Now everybody's going to say, oh, I didn't do it, I'm guilty. Oh, hell no. You did it, you're guilty. I did it, I'm guilty. I played the gray area, I got caught. Difference is I've accepted it. So I did my time and I was released from everyone. He is so right about this. I went through it. Okay, thank you, whoever that was. I did my time. I got released to a halfway house. Guys, I'm 70 years old. You're looking at my face. I'm gray haired. I'm white. I'm educated. I was successful before I went in. And where did they send me? They sent me to 9411 South Central Avenue Watts, California. That's right. Home of the Bloods and the Crips. How y'all doing? Yeah. Hey. I survived it. In my first 2 months there, I saw 2 shootings, 1 death. Right outside the halfway house on the street. 2 rival gangs got into it. I saw nothing. When I was asked what I saw, I said I saw 1 black man wearing jeans, pull a gun out, shoot another black man in the head. He was wearing jeans too. What else did you notice? Nothing. Why? I was too busy ducking. Hell no, I didn't see shit. I don't know nothing. The halfway house, there were 17 men in my room, all in bunk beds. A little bit more freedoms. You have the ability to make a little bit more food for yourself if you wanted. You have the ability to get day passes, to go shopping for whatever you needed, or to take care of personal business such as driver's licenses, things like that, which is another thing I want to tell you. Please take a look at your driver's license right now. Pull it out, look at it. How close to expiring is it? If it's going to expire within your sentence right now, let's say you got 3 more years on your license and you're going to be there for 4, go get that damn thing renewed right now. Get your social security card, your driver's license, your birth certificate, and get those in a safe place, and make sure that your driver's license, if you're going to be over 5 years, you might have a problem. But if you're under 5 years, try to make sure you have those documents in force and valid when you get out. If not, you are going to pay freaking hell getting it done, because the halfway house is not going to allow you to walk out. When I got out, I faced all kinds of issues because I got out the same day they closed the place down for COVID. Nobody was going anywhere. Nobody did for 2 months. We couldn't even go outside of our rooms. And when they did let us out, it was to use the showers, and each room had a meal time. We got 20 minutes to eat our meal. They also provide you food in a halfway house. They do not provide you transportation. They don't give you any money. They don't give you phone service. You have to pay for all of that. So when you get out, you want to be sure your family has the ability to get a cell phone to you, and they'll let you have it so that you can talk to them. It's usually 2 weeks in, and then you can get all these things squared away. But please make sure your documentation is all valid. If you have credit cards right now, give them to your whomever, wife, girlfriend, significant other, fiance, mother, father, sister, brother. Have them hold it. They don't necessarily have to use it, because they're not going to cancel your card if you don't use it. And when you get out, you may have the ability to use that, because whatever money's left in your account when you release, they'll put it on a little credit card for you, a little pay card, which really isn't accepted too many places other than the banks. And then you have access to that. So I was in the halfway house because I went through the RDAP program, which is a rehabilitation for drug and alcohol abuse. It's a residential programming. And your residential programming is going to be a lot easier time to do than the other fellows who aren't involved in the program. It also takes a year off of your sentence. So if you haven't been sentenced, you want to talk to your attorney and say, dude, I have a drinking problem. I drank like a fish. Then call your wife and let your wife back it up. And that's so that you qualify for RDAP. I don't know if Sean's talked to any of you about RDAP. But you qualify for RDAP, you qualify for the program that takes a year off your sentence. Okay, now, I was just visited by my probation officer for the first time in 16 months. And she is now going to release me to administrative supervision, which is really no different than what I've been doing, except that the probation system is now going back to we're going to check in, do this, do that, do this, do that. So I'm getting released from all that and into a little lighter watch and reporting for the last half of my probation, because I've been a good boy. So yeah, at my age, what am I going to do, right? But anyhow, everything that you're used to is going to be a shock. Another example, let's say some of you really like Old Spice deodorant. Forget it. You're not going to have it. Now, that doesn't sound like much until you pick up that cheap ass Menon's deodorant, wipe it on your underarm, and an hour later you stink like hell and you can't get rid of it. You're going to say, oh God, this is terrible. How do I deal with this? Cope with it. Adjust. If you don't, you'll drive yourself crazy. Medical, get as clean a health and medical as you can before you go in. I truly suggest, and I'm sure that a few other people would agree with me, go get a pure physical before you go in. Get a documented bill of health before you go in, and have that held by your loved ones, because you are in prison with people you don't have any idea of their backgrounds. You have no idea of where they came from, how they lived, what they may or may not have come into communications with. Not only them, but the guards. And you will find that the medical treatment within the facilities in most prisons are garbage. Go in healthy, try to stay healthy. Have documentation of your physical health before you go in, so you have basically a guideline starting point as to how it may have gone down and why you may have caught something that you shouldn't have gotten. That's another piece of good advice. So I have been out now, and I came out, they wouldn't let me come out to go look for a place, so I had to take a place by mind. And so it was suggested to me by my DTR counselor that I look at sober living facilities, which is what Sean's in. It's what I'm in. So I'm in a sober facility, living facility. Now, I told you, remember to take a look at the background, because this is in Los Angeles and this is in Torrance. This is a very nice area. However, this is how I have to live until I'm done with my probation. Pay attention now. Here you go. Ready? That is the room. I bought that air conditioner because it's bloody hot. There's my bed. And this is my half of the. Interesting, isn't it, gentlemen? This is storage for my clothes. So you see, when I said you have to learn how to adjust my closet, and this is the dividing of the room. This is me, and this is my roommate. Somewhat of a contrast in neat and tidiness, don't you think? Try not to be tall. Now you understand. You cannot be judgmental because you're living who have different interests other than your own, and you have to learn to get along. So I pretty much said everything really, really quickly, but I want to tell you, currently, my credit score is 710. It took me a year and a half to get there. I don't own my car. My car is financed. It's a 2017 model. I have a full-time job. I'm working for $14 freaking an hour because it's what's available to me because of my felony background right now. I need to have another year to get past that 7-year deadline, which if you have questions, so we can answer that. In other words, do not expect everything to be peachy keen and roses. If you have wealth before you go in and it hasn't been taken away from you, shut up about it. Don't want to know it. Don't care. So recapping. Do not be judgmental to anyone or anything. Do not expect to live according to the style that you've been used to. You will learn how to cherish things no matter how small, right down to a pocket comb. Try not to boss your family around and give them direction as the head of the household. You will end up losing them as quickly as you gain them. When you get out, nothing is going to be easy for you. Everything will be twice as hard, and everything is against you. You will have to fight and struggle every day just to get something in your direction until you get driver's license, birth certificate, and social security card. You've got no chance of being normal. After that, it's an uphill climb. It's a little easier. Mind your P's and Q's, behave yourself. You'll get through your probation without any issue and your supervised release. It's not going to last your lifetime. Mine's 3 years. I'm halfway through it. Sean was 3 years. He's halfway through his, plus a month or two. So, fellas, that was my whole ordeal. I hope I've given you a lot to think about in a short amount of time. If you have something specific, I would be more than happy to address it. Sean, I don't have anybody's picture on my screen except my own.
Slide your phone to the right or the left, and you should be able to see different participants.
Nope.
Really? Because there's 7 of us on here. Maybe there's a participant button or something.
I don't know. I
Top right
let's see.
corner,
Oh, I
there's
see it.
something called view.
It says 7 participants,
Yeah. There
but it
should
doesn't
be
give me any.
a way to see them.
Hey,
Play around with it.
hey, Corey, Eric, Matt, Tom, Sean, and one unnamed individual. I just got a list of names, but that's all I got. So I don't know if you all heard me or not, but anyway, please, guys, if I can answer anything more direct for you, I'd be happy to.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. You covered so much. Thank you so much. I mean, you covered everything. You covered before, during, and after. And so I'm hoping people have some questions. And you didn't even get this. We also worked at the Supermax, me, Chris, and Tom up in the corner. That was our day jobs at the Supermax. So there's a lot of programs he didn't even get into yet either. But who's got some questions out there? You guys hear from me all the time, so I'm going to be quiet today. I know Matt's probably got some questions.
Matt, what are you facing? Can you hear him? I can't hear him.
I got
Matt, are you what are the charges you're facing?
TJ, Corey, anybody? I guess nobody's talking right now. I probably should have went live, and then I could have had chat room going at the same time. And it's some extra software I got to add on here, but I'll try to figure it out next time.
I have a question.
Well, maybe
for
they
you,
just there you go. Is that Tom?
Yes.
Yeah, hey Tom,
you
how
know,
are you?
I'm doing better than I deserve now, Chris. Life has gotten better than it's ever been. So there is a silver lining
Very
to this.
good.
Yeah, it's I'm happier, more content, more optimistic, more focused, more realistic, focusing on only what's important to me and my family. So life is good. Life is good. This
Excellent.
turned out to be
Glad
a
to
good
hear that.
experience. Turned out to be a good experience for me. As crazy as that sounds, it changed my life.
No, I
And
fully understand.
yeah, now I know what's important, and I only
There
worry
you go.
about what's important. Yeah. Just there's not much we can say about it. This 98% conviction rate of federal prosecutions. The system through the U.S. attorneys and the pre-sentencing office and the judge. Boy, I tell you, if you try to argue for yourself, they just really penalize you. I mean, even trying to get your version of the story out, they just seem to react in such a negative way and they penalize you if you do try to defend yourself or try to explain to them the specific facts of your case, how you may not be as bad as they kind of see you as. But if you bring that up, my judge never knew the true story of what went on in my case, never knew. And it surprised me that she could adjudicate my case and really not understand or know anything about it. Never had a chance to hear anything about it. Got a pre-sentencing report, which was very one-sided, and they refused to allow my position to be represented in the pre-sentencing report. So, and my attorney was just rabid about me not trying to defend myself. And of course, at that point, you're so beaten up, you don't know what to do. But it's always made me curious. Why is this system so one-sided? Why can you not defend yourself? Why can you not have some sense of your version of the story being told without it causing them to try to penalize you even more?
Well, truthfully, you're going to hear about 87,000 versions of what my answer is going to be. But this is my observation. In 1964, the assassination of John Kennedy, the entire legal system changed. they first went into the, the ending of the Cold War through Johnson and whatnot, a number, Gorbachev signing out, McKell, changing the way things were going in Russia. The whole world changed. But in the United States, our legal system changed, and it started to go more, the public started to become more liberal in what they were doing because they were upset. So you started seeing big business get behind a lot of stuff quietly, subversively. The drugs started coming in more frequently. People started doing more stupid things. The legal system had, in their mind, no option. They're not looking at it like they're doing today. And of course, that's not true either, but that's the reason they're going to give you. We had to crack down. We had to make laws stiffer and stronger and put, more McCarthyism into it and more J. Edgar Hooverism into it. So they started tightening down. Well, that got out of control in the respect that an ADAA here wants to be a supervising ADA up here, and he can't get from here to here without a conviction rate being down to nothing. And this guy's the king dog, right? Closing that gap. So you started finding a little embellishments into it, such as like in your case or in mine, they started using language to really shred it. And then the money started to come into it. The money being that, of course, you know as well as I, every day that a federal inmate's in prison, the Justice Department, through the Bureau of Prisons, gets $1.00 allotment per day. And that's for every prisoner. And then medical comes into it too. Now, there's a lot of things about the medical side of this that are pretty weird that a lot of people don't know either. But, that's a whole nother story. But you asked that question. Competitiveness between the ADAs and the desire to make laws more enforceable and create a deterrent by making them stiffer penalties. And what it did was it created a competition level, and you started seeing the lobbying through Reagan and the lobbying through Ford, straight up through the Clinton administration, and it just didn't change. It just snowballed. So now, if an ADA wants to get ahead of the game, they have to have a conviction ratio. And the more convictions they have, the higher up the line they get, the better the pay gets, et cetera, et cetera. The language is where they really get you. In mine, as probably in yours. In common law, in other words, England, New Zealand, Australia, under common law, and the easiest way to think about it is countries that have like a British type accent. They use the word scheme to describe business. Oh, he's in the insurance scheme. So when we in the United States say, what does he do? Oh, he's in the insurance game. He works for an insurance company. In my case, and on my documents, they use the word scheme, not company, not game, not job. Why do they use the word scheme? It's because that word conjures up a thought in the public's mind that you're already doing something as a criminal. So their first attack, if you reread your case, you'll see it's the language. And then when you pled guilty, or if you pled guilty, in my case, I pled guilty. I had to plead guilty to specific words in a sentence. He with deliberate intention would have never even spoken that daily language, even in a business meeting. But you see, that's where it changed. And the conviction rate is what allows the money to flow through through the Department of Justice to the Bureau of Prisons, which is what pays all of theirs. Okay. Now, the language is what makes your case even worse. Now, they can't walk up and stick a gun in your head and, force you to say something, but they can make you sound like Hannibal Lecter for a parking meter violation. Does that make sense to you, Tom?
Yes, it does. I don't like
Okay.
it, but it
That's
makes
the only
sense.
explanation. Yeah, it's the only explanation I have for it.
How about the lawyers that supposedly represent us, either paid or court appointed, or how come they're so
Okay.
passive in defending us?
Okay, are you saying that facetiously, or do you actually mean that truthfully there, that they actually do want to defend you?
No, I don't feel like I had a defense attorney at all.
Okay. In giving you an answer to that, your public defenders first are overloaded no matter what anyone says. Now, do not misunderstand. They're going to tell you overall, the general conceptions of public defender does not make a lot of money annually. Bullshit. He does a good job of making good money because he's going against a system that is already geared to convict. Okay. Now, some of the public defenders who represent these cases, who have been there for a while, have already had their nose rubbed in it a few times, and they've stood up and they've just wiped the dirt off their nose, and other people respect that. So they allow them to put up a case, because under the law and in court practices and procedures, there are many, many things that an attorney can and cannot do, can say and not say, that will decide a case without even the case being heard. So they kind of have to stick with the law. Now, with some of you who had public defenders and you've been already, found guilty and you're out on bail, good luck. I was never out on bail. I had to stay at MDC for 9 months because I was, quote, on flight risk. I had money, I had connections, yada, yada, yada. These attorneys will send you a crap load of case law. And, there's, the normals that are there that everyone talks about when you're in custody, Man's Act and all that. That's all bull. But you're going to find that in your listing of appeal for case law in presenting the case. And that's because they're mandated by law to put that stuff in there. So you'll get some that are passionate. On the private side of attorneys, they're motivated to try and defend you because they have two things they're looking at. One, they may just break that 98% conviction rate and then become a national hero. Two, which is usually the most motivating, is just they're being paid by you. So that means they're not waiting 90 days down the road. They're going to get paid for your services as you bill them. Those two things are what keep private attorneys more passionate, but at the same time, you have to use your common sense when looking at it. Look, the bottom line is, everybody out there, you, Tom, me, Sean, everyone, we know what we did. We damn well know. We know if there was a gray area. We know if we, in fact, did really break the law. And if the gray area, because we have that intelligence, and you appear to have that intelligence, I know a little bit about you, and you're a smart guy. You know that you could have pushed the envelope here or there, and it was a 50-50 shot or 60-40. Your attorney, if he's a good attorney, he's going to play that out and try to get you a better deal. The feds are just going to push for a conviction rate because your name's on the docket. End of story. You did it, period. Act of God, you might get off. But the difference between the attorneys is their own personal beliefs and their own personal passions. Public defenders are overloaded, but they do make a goodly amount of money. They do have to represent those cases, but if you go back over and survey the people who had a public defender, you will find that the public defender suggested they take the deal and explain that 98% conviction rate prior to ever getting into their case. On the private side, you probably heard the same thing, but the private side attorney said, I think we have a shot at looking at this because of that, because of this, because of that. And maybe they know you, maybe they're friends with you. That's my answer for you.
Okay, thank you.
I hope that gave you some kind of answer, because to me it was like, luck of the draw, Tom.
Yeah,
I've heard more than not that a a court-appointed attorney works just as hard as a paid one in the feds. And so my kind of advice to people is save your money and use a court-appointed one, because they don't make deals like they do in state courts. The 98% conviction rate, I mean, pretty much says it all there. But I don't know. What do you think, Tom? Should court-appointed or public or private?
well, in my case, when I researched hiring a private attorney, I needed $500,000 of liquidity that I could put up, and the ability to raise that to $1 million to defend myself. So I didn't have that. So I got a court-appointed attorney I thought was going to be reasonably good for me, but it wasn't. So, I don't know. I don't have an answer for that. I mean, I think, I wished I'd gone to jail when they arrested me and stayed in jail so that I would have started the clock running and not spent 3 years in pre-trial and gotten through my sentence sooner. I could have saved 3 years of my life and gotten back to my life 3 years earlier, because, I just think that pre-trial was a waste of time for me.
Tom, it's funny you say that, and I can't help but to agree with you, because I went from New Zealand to Tonga, and it was a total of 3 years. An FBI agent came to my door and he said, "I have this international arrest warrant for you. This is in Tonga. It's a very back area." And I kind of looked at him and I said, "Yeah, so?" I said, "You have no jurisdiction here. Why am I going to listen to you?" He says, "Well," he said, "you need to come with me." And I said, "No, I don't need to come with you." And then I made the mistake of saying, "If you think that you standing outside my front door by yourself, which I will be happy to open for you, but I'm not inviting you in, is going to remove me from my kids," suggestion would have been to bring more men. His response to that was, you see my arrogance at the time? His response to that was, "You don't really want to say things like that," because he says, "If you just come and get it over with," he said, "you'll be back to your natural life sooner." Exact same thing that you said. So yeah, it's true. The thing you got to remember, fellas, is that if you're going to fight stuff in court, you're going to pay a private attorney or you're going to take the court-appointed attorney. I chose a court-appointed attorney, and I got a good one. Only because I am not going to pay somebody to try and defend a case I know I'm going to lose anyway with a 98% conviction rate, when my family can use that money while I'm away. Weigh things out, use your head. But Tom is right. Should have gave in and just gone through the process. I should have done it too. I would have been out 3 years sooner, and I could have accomplished so much more. You were right, Tom.
Yeah, I agree. The sooner you can get sentencing over, take that first deal they offer you, you're probably not going to get a second deal anyways. They give you that one shot. You need to take it. You're not going to win, and if you do win, there was a couple people I did time with who won a federal case, and I said, "But you're telling me this here in prison." "Oh, well, I won that case, but 3 years later they came back with a new case. That's why I'm here now." Oh, see, so they'll come back.
Yeah, you remember that? Do you remember that guy? He was that chiropractor.
That was the chiropractor.
Huh?
That was the chiropractor. I'm
sorry?
Yeah. Yes,
Yeah,
it was the chiropractor.
Yeah, a federal judge released him from Florence in 24 hours. They released him. And in 3 months later, he was right back with new federal charges. Why? He bucked the system. Guys, just, you know what? I know that some of you are out there saying, "Oh, that guy's a pussy. He gave in." No, I didn't give in. I just chose when I wanted to fight my battles and how I wanted to fight them in a better way. That's all. Guys, use your heads. And TJ, I saw your thing on the bottom of the screen. I don't know why we can't hear your voice, but thank you for making that comment. I appreciate that.
I just asked TJ to unmute, and there he is.
I just stay muted so that no background noises can interfere. And I was just listening.
Oh, well, thank you for your comment, TJ. That was very nice of you. I appreciate you supporting that viewpoint. It's so much better just to let them have what they want. They're going to get their pound of flesh no matter what. And if they don't get it while you're there, they're going to get it when you get out.
Right. And you're absolutely right too about, I've been listening to a lot of, talking about, with federal sentencing and all and trials and everything. People don't really understand exactly what you're saying about, because I did a 30-month stint in state for DWIs, and I'm a veteran, combat and everything. But one thing that you were absolutely right about, and that other people need to realize, is that you cannot control anything when you're inside. I actually ended up getting a divorce from my wife, but we actually ended up getting back together. But because I was trying to control things, trying to boss my child around still, that it just doesn't work. And you're absolutely right about that. That's the first time I've heard somebody really even say that, because I totally forgot about it. because now I'm looking at a federal sentence. I took a plea, but I'm real low. I'm at a offense level of 7. And but I got a category history of 8 to 14 months, and so it's not really that I did more time than that. But you're absolutely right about you gotta watch how you talk to people when you're inside, because like you said, if you got a 5-year sentence, they're not gonna stick around. I had 3 years, and like I said, my wife divorced me. We just happened to get back together when I got out. But you're absolutely right. And it's crazy that you said that, because it had me to remember. I had to remember that again. Like, okay, because now I'm getting ready to have to go back in. Like, let me watch how I talk to people. Yeah, that was a very good point. And I think Sean, you got to stress that more to other people that you contact with that are going to do time. Because I'm telling you, you are absolutely right about that. You have definitely got to watch how you talk to people.
You're right.
When I went in,
I was going to say some of them leave you before you even get sentenced. Just on the pretrial part, they don't want nothing to do with you.
Yeah, you're right.
In my particular case, TJ, my wife, she talked real sweet and nice and fine and dandy till they got me from the airport into MDC. 30 days into MDC, my phone, I wasn't getting any money put on the phone so I could talk with her, right? And the long and short is that I didn't know this, but she had already started seeing somebody, and I was only gone 6 months. She'd already started dating some guy. She ended up pregnant, and on the day they were sentencing me, which was almost 10 months later, she gave birth to the child. So obviously, all of this whole time I was in, I never had contact with her other than the first 3 months. So they go through changes on the outside too, as you well know. They go through changes of anger and then shame, fear.
You left them.
Money becomes an issue.
Yep.
I'm sorry, TJ.
Yeah,
they
my
go
wife,
through all those things.
Yeah, that was a big thing. She kept stressing like, you left me, and now I'm like, well, I'm about to leave you again. It looks like. I mean, but you're absolutely right.
So make peace with it
a
now.
lot. Yeah.
And they go through a lot of things. And if there's children involved, fellas, it amplifies. It becomes greater. But long and short, my ex-wife and I divorced her when I was in Florence. By the way, if you're going to get divorced, Colorado's a great place to get divorced from. It's free if you're in jail. So that worked out well. But we talk every now and again, and I stretch the word every now and again because the fella she hooked up with, believe me, in the end, God makes things right, I guess. She did not trade up. So TJ, I don't know what your particular situation is, but I'm sure there was no trading up in replacing you.
Definitely, she found that out. Yeah, she found that out. Yeah, she got a piece of shit that took her to the cleaners.
There you go.
And, yeah, that's crazy. So she actually learned the lesson from it all.
Yeah, mine got the same dude. And between the two of them, they came up with the brilliant idea that they take the child and give the child away to her older sister who lives in Fiji. And that child's being raised by mom who's not mom. I failed to see where she came out ahead of the game. I really do. And now she's living in the greater Los Angeles area. I have nothing to do with her. But he's up in San Jose. So, I don't see who won, who lost, if there was anything to win or lose. All I know is that you, TJ, you're going back in. You already done a minute or two, so you already understand what to expect. And conveying that and replaying it for your wife on a more positive note, hoping that she'll understand that and then she'll stay with you, so you have something to look forward to when you come back out.
I tell you, nothing like watching a grown man yell and scream at the phone. You got 12 guys waiting for the phone. He's yelling and screaming out his wife about some money he spent on this and that, and like trying to run her life from that prison phone. And then he wonders when she doesn't show up for the visit all of a sudden, because he's just threatened her on the phone.
And his commissary account's got $2 in it.
You gotta, Yeah, when you go to prison, you hurt your family. You did this to them. In their mind, you did this to them. You made it's your fault you're in prison. You made the choices. Nobody put a gun in your head. You did this to them. So you got to remember that. You know, you put them, you know, when you did this to them, and some guys just they can't. Yeah, Chris said if you got a 5-year sentence or more, I'm going to say 90. It's a conviction rate just like the feds. 98% chance your wife's not going to be there when you get out. That's just the way it is. I've seen it happen.
I hate to be that blunt. I don't want to be mean to anyone, Sean, but you know what Sean is saying is true. So guys, here's the thing. If you are better informed, you are better equipped to deal with things.
That's right.
So like you heard TJ say, I made that mistake, and he learned that mistake the hard way. Sean and I, we both literally saw, I don't know if you saw him, TJ or Tom, I don't know if you guys did, but I could go downstairs and they'd be on the phones screaming. Not only were they embarrassing themselves, but they were making their private business on blast for everybody to hear. And now everybody in there knew this man's weak point. So if they wanted to come at him, they come at him with that weak spot. You don't give your weak spots up to anybody. You suck it up. You go cry, you go turn on the shower and do it in there if you need to, because, you know, you're not going to make any points. Now, there are certain things that are accepted, like family passing away. That's an accepted scenario. People don't worry about you showing emotion, but I think if people showed a little bit more emotion in jail, but not to the point to where they're being argumentative, like trying to control and manipulate, it would be a lot easier to deal with. But have that have that conversation with your spouse or girlfriend, fiance, significant other. Have that conversation now. Get it out of the way. Don't make people promise what they can't give, but definitely talk about it. You agree, guys?
I remember saying when I was doing my state bid, I remember saying, I just wish I was single. You know what I mean? I was like, I wish I would have just came in by myself, because it was more of a distraction to me than anything.
Yeah, you're always wondering, I wonder what she's doing tonight.
But,
some guy trying to get in her knickers, but you know? So, reconcile with those demons before it happens, fellas. Anybody got anything else interesting? TJ, thank you for voicing in.
Yes, thank you.
Corey, how about you? Any questions?
You know, I've enjoyed the conversation tonight. You know, I'm still a long ways off from going in, I think, but what weighs heavy on my mind, you know, like afterwards, you know, losing gun rights. You know, been an avid hunter all my life, and it's a big thing with me and my boy, and you know, little stuff like that you know, just kills me more in the long run than facing anything right now, you know.
Corey, I'll tell you, I can affiliate. I carried a weapon for 22 years. It matched my badge. I don't remember getting up and not ever having one. And then I topped it off by carrying another one for another 10 years, along with the credentials to make it right. And you know, the hardest thing for me to give up was the thought that I did not have to bear that responsibility anymore, because I was a person who accepted responsibility and thrived on it. That was the hardest thing. But here's the thing, you know, hunting, it's all fine and dandy, but you can substitute hunting versions of hunting to where you're not having to use a firearm. There are many different ways that you can change that. And if you dwell on what you're about to lose, instead of like what Tom said earlier, what he gained, and you need to start working on getting out now. You work on getting out before you get in. Get your act in line so that when you come out, my dear friend Corey, when you come out, you don't miss too many steps. The biggest steps you're going to notice that hurt you are
we just lost Chris, but I think he was about to say fatherhood. Yeah, I know where he was going with that. Here he's coming back on, but I mean, he's there. He's
Get all
coming
your
back
stuff
in.
in line. If get all your ID squared away. Make sure that if you're going to go down for 2 years, that your ID is going to be valid when you come out, because you may be able to get a job. You're going to go to a camp, I'm sure. You may be able to get a job in the camp where you're going to be an outside driver. So you would be getting in a car like Alex was doing, that one kid, not the Russian Alex, the Filipino Alex. He was a day driver. He would drive people to their doctor's appointments. You see, Corey, those things are important because there could be some benefit for them inside. But you work towards leaving jail before you ever get in it. You work towards making your life whole, and don't focus on these little things that you're going to lose. Like, gee, I can never fire a gun. Hey, I had 1845 Colts. I had 3 of them. I had to give them up. And truly, I do miss them because we used to do some Western reenactments. But, those things I can live without because I'm able to get out and I look at the sunlight every morning. And I know nobody's going to charge me for looking at it. You know what I'm saying, young man?
Oh, yeah.
So that's where you go, brother. You work on your life after you leave custody now before you go in. You can always live vicariously through your son's ability to shoot, but you can't. So you've already learned, 20, 30 years of shooting, how to help somebody who hasn't. It just means you can't touch that gun. But there are many other things you can do. Maybe you're going to take up, I don't know, hydroplane boat racing. You'll be fine, my friend.
I have heard something about hunting rifles. Once you get off probation, that you can apply for a hunting rifle. I've heard that. I'm not sure if that's true. Tom, do you know anything about that?
No, I don't know anything about hunting issues or guns. I've never owned a gun.
Was he federal? Well, Corey, are you federal? Or are you
Yes.
state? You're
Fed.
federal?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, you'll never be able to get rid of that. If you were a state charged felon, unless you go to Alaska, if you were a state charged felon, you could petition to have your gun rights returned. I believe Arizona has that going on too. Alaska, if you go to Alaska and you move there permanently, and you're a resident for 5 years, you can actually purchase a weapon. Now it's going to show, and if they did your release work, if they said that you may never own a weapon again, or you're restricted from owning a weapon, you can't reverse it. But the state of Alaska will not go after you. And usually that's where it all starts. It starts on a state charge and builds to a federal. But again, it's best just to say I can't ever do it. Buy a paintball gun. Best I can say.
Hey, Sean, try to see if you can get somebody that was at a low. Because, some of us may not be going to no camp. I don't think I qualify for a camp. So I'd like to hear.
I'll work on that low. Yeah, you're right. And I do got somebody that's been through a medium that was going to come on. I don't know if they're still debating whether they want to do it or not. Even mediums are survivable, but yeah, I'll try to find the lows. I'll work on that. Thanks.
All right.
The big difference, of course, the big difference with the low and the camp was, TJ, was that most of the lows have controlled movement. That's the first thing. They have controlled movement on the yards. So there's only one prison camp left in the entire Bureau of Prisons that has weights. It has a weight pile left, and that's Florence's camp. Now, it's been 16 months. They may have gotten it taken away for all I know already, because, they get it shut down for a month because somebody did something stupid, and then it'd be 2 months later and it'd be open, and then they get shut down again. But the low lost their weight pile because they were using the weights to beat on each other when they, have these gang graps, right? And predominantly at Florence, it was the Indians that were really rowdying up. There was a in the Indian Nation, there was a change of chiefs between multiple tribes, and they were all at fraction with each other. But controlled movement means that you move every hour. So let's say you're in the library for an hour. You can't leave the library and go back to your dorm until they call for the movement. So that's what controlled movement is. The chow hall is all wired in. So once you go in there, you know, you're in there, you're not leaving. Whereas the camp, you come and go as you choose. Also, you don't see the food line. The purpose of that is to make sure that, you know, you're not going to get special treatment from somebody behind the line putting extra food on your plate. All trays are exactly the same. And they just come through a little window and you slide them down the line, and then you get off the line and go to your table. There are politics involved in the lows. The politics, the extremes of politics is hard to say. You know, it just depends on the camp and scenario, or the compound you're in. Other than that, there are some restrictions with the Florence Low, for example, on clothing and on commissary items. They had a little bit more on commissary items, a little bit tighter restriction on clothing. The only reason I know all this is because I worked with a couple guys that were part of the Lowe's commissary, and I did a lot of food functions at the Low, and we did a lot of maintenance at the Low as far as grounds and painting work and whatnot. So I did gain a little information, but I don't know what your point schedule is going to be. I think it's 11 to 23. Prior convictions, if they're older than 10 years, they don't count. So you won't have an issue there. I hope that helps you.
Yeah, it did. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, I know the lows is like 15. It's 15 points. I looked it up the other day.
Okay.
Yeah, and then the mediums are 16 and above. Chris, I think you're getting confused with our FCI. You're calling that a low. That's a medium, actually. At Florence,
You know what? I think you're right. The FDI.
they don't. We didn't have a low. You had to go to Inglewood in Denver. That's where they had. That's where they got Jared, the guy from Subway. He's over there getting the real foot long.
Yeah, that pedophile bastard. He's getting a real foot long, all right.
Yeah, I heard
Yeah, you know,
Lowe's weren't too bad, but I heard they got a little bit of politics.
the politics is always going to be as it goes up the line. You're right, Sean. That's right. We were a medium and then to the federal pen. But, you know, that's, even though you said that about Jared, that's hilarious. You should be aware of this. What was said earlier by TJ, I think Tom alluded to it too, is, you know, be cautious of what you say. If you go after a chomo, a pedophile, a child sex guy, or any, you know, gay person or anything like that, and you lose control of yourself and you smack this dude, you can even verbally assault them, and you're looking at 10 years. It is a hate crime.
Yeah, that's about to say that's a hate crime.
Yeah, they're the victim now. They're the victim. You go, you know, you go grab a 5-year-old kid and you rape him, molest him, and everything. And if I call you out on it, and I social distance from 6 feet away, but call you out on it, he's the victim now. You know, I'm the perp. You know, what's wrong with this?
Same thing applies if you're dealing with racial entities. If you're Mexican, black, Chinese, white, it doesn't matter who's calling who what. They're going to tack it to a hate crime, because the thing in federal prisons are the guards go on what's happening now. What's the quickest fad? You'll notice if one guard starts bringing hot chocolate and thermos bottle, 17 more guards are going to be joining with hot chocolate and thermos bottle within a week. It's just life. You know, on the outside, cops have friends that are what? Cops. Cops go bowling with what? Cops. Firemen go to lunch with who? Firemen. People are geared to go into those groups that they belong to or they have intimate relationships with. So they all get a like frame of mind. You know, you've heard this old saying like, gee, if you work with 25 women and they all started out with, you know, different cycles, by the end of 3 months, they're all going to have the same cycle time. It's true, they will. It's the same thing with these guards. So they will jump on this hate crime shit because the Department of Justice is big on it. So watch yourself. Don't mouth off. Don't say, hey, faggot, come here. Or listen, you child molesting punk motherfucker. I'm going to bust your dick. You know, you don't say shit like that. You just say, wow, well, that was interesting. You know what? I really don't have time to talk right now. Have a good day. But walk the hell away. You know, but it's the best treatment. We seen it, Sean. Are you speaking or just nodding?
I'm nodding. I'm agreeing, and we did see it. I
Yeah.
mean, we had our share. We had our share of homosexual gay guys in there, but I didn't have a problem with them. You know, they're different. There's a difference between somebody who's gay and somebody who's a child molester. There's a big difference. Some people don't know that.
See, in MDC, the holding facility that I was in for 9 months, I had 17 cellmates, and the cells are even smaller than the cubes we were in. 17 of them were gay or homosexual of version or another, transsexual. I had guys that were taking medication to grow tits. I had guys that were trying to get the feds, and they will pay for it to cut their dicks off and turn them into pussies. These were cellmates. You want to talk about having to adjust and get used to shit. And the other ones were just fucking batshit crazy. So, you know, guys, you got to get used to a lot of different things. TJ, you already been down a minute. You know, Tom, you've been down, you know. You just got to be really, really less judgmental about everything and just focus on building your life to getting out, not going in.
Yeah. I think what's funny too with the federal system is the longer they keep you on pretrial, it'll start mind fucking you and think like, oh, I'm just gonna get probation. Like my wife and my sister and all. No, I'm just gonna get probation. You got a little charge. Ain't no way in the hell. I done took a plea bargain of 8 to 14, and I hope I can get in between that. But probation.
I'll tell you what, if you want to believe that, I got a palm tree in a fucking lake in the middle of this Gobi desert I can sell you for $30.
What's that? If I believe what? What, probation?
Yeah, if you believe that shit.
I got a package deal. It's $2,500 on the Cash App. I'll get you probation. Just send it here, and I'll guarantee it in 20 minutes.
Yeah, that probation shit ain't. I tell my wife all the time, that probation, that shit is out the window. Now I'm not gonna say I could have got probation. I feel as though, but my category, my criminal history category is a 4. If I had a category, I had no history of anything, no DWIs or nothing like that, then I'm sure I probably could have got probation or either home confinement.
No,
I know that's out.
You are low enough. You are actually low enough to get probation. Your level is that low, but you're right about your criminal history category because since you've been charged before, you know, since you have a criminal history, judge is going to say, and I guess you didn't learn your lesson. You know what I mean? If it was your first time offense, maybe, but it's not your first time. So the judge is going to say, why are you back in my courtroom? You know, and then
I'm not back in his court. I ain't never been in no federal shit.
See, that's what he wants to hear. Because they told me, they go, we've given you lots of chances. I just met you. Who are you? I don't know you. They mean that the system has given you lots of chances.
The system, that's the way I look at it.
You got to look at it this way too. No matter what you say or do, it's all going to be, did that judge wake up with Folgers in his cup, or did he wake up with piss in his cup? Because the bottom line is, you look at me, I went down, and this is why they gave me that 3-point enhancement. I went into the courtroom with no criminal record, period, ever. I went into the courtroom with accommodations from the Secret Service. And I still got banged. Why? Because I went in with college degrees. Why? Because I was educated. I should have known better. 2, I had the trust of the public in my life for a great many years. I should have known better. So because you should have known better, we're going to get you this way. We're not going to say you should have known better. We're going to say you were outside of the United States, and this scheme, not business, but scheme, was conducted outside the United States. We can legally boost you 3 more points and put you away for a little longer. So, you know, they got their enhancement. It's legal. So the bottom line is that if you have more education, a clean background, you can still get banged just as hard. So the reality is the only way to avoid all of it is to basically just walk in and say, you know what? You got me. I did it. Now look, I didn't shoot the guy, but I did load the gun. Cop out, because if you don't, you run the risk of doubling your sentence or getting time added just because you got the look on your face like, what did you just say about me in open court? You shitbag. No, you can't, just accept it. Be done with it.
Hey, now's the time to start making amends with your family too before you go in. And now's the time to, make nice with them. Be that husband that be the father that you've always. Now's the time, because you're not going to get it while you're in there, and you want them to wait for you when you get out, right? So now's the time to put your family first while you have this opportunity. Quit your job if you have to, because you're going to go away to prison. You may not see them for several years. So you know what I mean? Put your family first. That's my advice. Do that now. Do that. It's Sunday, and do that when you get off this Zoom conference. Go tell your family how much you love them. Give them a big hug just because you can. You get to do that today. Cherish those moments.
That's good advice. Very good advice.
Yeah, definitely. Well, this Kansas City game is on. I'm gonna go ahead and head out, Sean. I thank you, Chris, for your input, man, on stuff, man. This is a very brutal, honest session here, but people need to hear it.
Well, TJ, I wish you the very best of luck. I hope everything good comes your way. I hope that your time is not as bad as you think it's going to be. I wish it and hope for you that your family and you survived quite well, and it was an honor meeting you, young man.
You too. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, I just want to say the hardest holiday for me in prison was Father's Day. That's the hardest, and my father died while I was in there. But to me, that's the hardest day for.
Here, I thought you were going to say it was
men.
because I reminded you of your father, and you looked at me with a fatherly image. Oh, you piece of shit, you.
Chris was my stepfather while I was in there. older brother.
Yeah, but I don't do diapers. Sorry.
Yeah. But Father's Day is a tough holiday, I think, for a lot of guys, especially if you got kids on the outside and you can't be with them, or you can't be with your father. And I mean, it sure is. That's a day kids are supposed to look up to their father, and here you are in prison. So your self-esteem's not really going to be happening too much that day. You know what I mean?
Something that I did, and I don't know if it'll help anybody else that's out there, but something that I did is I never hid anything from my kids. My kids went to all the extradition hearings. They couldn't come to the court proceedings in LA because they were still in Tonga. But anything that happened in New Zealand or Tonga, they came, they saw, they heard from themselves. My daughter's favorite saying was, Dad, why can they do this to you? They didn't present any evidence. And she's right, they didn't. But I made them part of it. I talked about it with them. I didn't hide it from them. I didn't try to soft soap it and make it sound like it's nothing. It is something. They saw it. They saw all of the aggression that was involved by the prosecution. They saw how the attorneys worked their verbiage in order to make me sound like, Hannibal Lecter II. If you do these things with your family now, you're going to have a better outcome later. The more they understand, the better, because you are not going to be able to just you're not going to be able to have them just accept it all when you're gone, because they can't question anything with you. They can't say, gee, John, how come this is going to happen? And why is that? There's no discussion. You're gone. So make them part of it now. That's it.
All right, Chris, I guess we're winding up here. It seems like I want to thank you for your time today, Chris. Thank you so much. And thank you for helping me while I was in there, for being a friend to me while I was in there. Same with you, Tom. Both of you guys, I was able to pull these guys aside on a good day or a bad day, and they were there for me. We helped each other get through this. These two guys, Chris and Tom, are the kind of guys that I found while I was in prison. You want to get a group of guys that, and you may have the attitude, I'm not going to make any friends around me. I'm not going to prison to make friends. That's what I thought. but you know what? You're stuck there for a few years. Do you want to really be all totally alone, or do you want to find somebody? It's going to happen. It's bound to happen. The most quiet, silent guy in there usually has a couple people he can talk to. So, just take your time choosing them, but you're going to make friends in there. And I know you don't want to hear that. I didn't want to hear that, but now I'm glad I did.
Well, thank you, Sean. You guys, I wish all of you the best of luck in what's coming your way. Keep in mind, this is not the end. It's a whole new chapter and a whole new beginning in your life. It's like Tom said earlier on, my eyes have opened up to a whole lot of new things, and I'm so thankful for it. Me, I learned just exactly how arrogant I had become because I had way too much money, way too much power, and it showed. So it's going to be an eye opener. And if you can accept it, you're going to have a great life. I wish the best of all of you. Tom, it was nice seeing you.
Nice to see you. Appreciate it, Chris.
Thank you. You're welcome. Hope to see you again sometime. Sean, I know you're going to be leaving us at the first of the year, but you're not going to be gone, buddy.
No, I'm not gonna be gone. I'm gonna keep doing this YouTube thing. And anyways, I got Tom as my support group when I get there. So anyways,
There you go. Well,
I'll be
as long as
uploading
you got a
this.
phone.
Yeah, I'll be uploading this video to YouTube within the hour or two, so you guys can catch it. So
All right. Well, you guys all have a great night. Nice to
You too.
talk with all of you. Y'all take good
Thank
care.
you.
TJ,
All right, guys.
best of luck.
thanks, guys.
See you, buddy. See you next week.
Okay.